Hey, Andy, if there was one theme park that you could CEO, which one would it be?
Everybody loves Marineland. Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Beat the Beast, where news races the beast. As always, we discuss the latest news and trending social media topics and give our opinions of them, all before the beast hits the final brake run. So tonight, of course, I'm Andy Rabarchak from Chicago, Illinois. Joined with me this evening, my co-host, Dwayne Sponseller from Parkersburg, West Virginia. And we have a great set of stories for you this evening. And let's get right started to it. And the first story, and before we get started, as always, we only have 4 minutes and 10 seconds to talk about each story. That's the time of the beast. And the clock has now started on our first story, which is the biggest news to come out of SeaWorld in quite some time. Joel Manby is officially taking over as CEO of the company. Now, Joel Manby, as you recall, was the CEO of Hershey Family Entertainment, that great company that brought us rides like Wild Eagle down at Dollywood and Outlaw Run at Silver Dollar City. And now he is taking over probably the company that has been embroiled in the most controversy in the last 3 years, and that's SeaWorld. Dwayne, what do you think about this huge move that SeaWorld made today?
Well, this news came out, Andy, and I was shocked. I would never have imagined that SeaWorld Entertainment would even go after him. Well, maybe go after him, but him to accept a job like this. I know we've talked about, SeaWorld over the past year and a half, ever since the Blackfish story and everything that's happened since then. And but people tend to forget that SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment is not just SeaWorld. You know, you've got the Busch Gardens parks and everything that's included in that. And, I'm shocked that he would accept this position, but I think it's very obvious in the reasons of why he did it. I'm going to let you talk about what your opinion is here in just a second. But what I think is he was a part of a very small company, Hershey Family Entertainment. Of course, that's Dollywood, that's Silver Dollar City, and there's a few aquariums and other things that are included in that as well. But when you think about it, those are very small, I don't know what the word would be called, but, commercial parks. I mean, I know that they're a commercial park too, but it's not like a Cedar Fair or a Six Flags where there's a whole bunch. Well, now he's going to be in charge of all the SeaWorlds throughout the country, both Busch Gardens parks, and, the stock was falling. And I think maybe that the investors all got together and decided this is going to be the best, idea. Let's fork some money out and let's offer this to him. And it was probably an offer that he couldn't refuse. And I think he would be able to bring in his different style of actually running a company. It's a lot different than many people have seen. You may have seen an episode of Undercover Boss a few years back when he kind of explained who he was. And, of course, we know him from COASTER-net. He was gracious enough to interview on Dreams to Screams documentary that we did for Outlaw Run. And so I'm very interested to see where he moves SeaWorld forward to as a company, because right now the negative press that's out there, and you've got that 50-50 split about people who are supporting it, from celebrities to sports figures to people in the industry who know a little bit more about situations who may kind of go to the other side. So I think it's a good fit for him. I think he'll be able to pull it back to what it once was. But I'm very shocked about this whole, situation with him going to SeaWorld. Andy, your thoughts?
Well, I think you nailed it right in the head. I think SeaWorld gave him a boatload of money that we know we don't know for sure, but we can infer from his book Love Works that he does talk about receiving offers at one point from another company that, for all intents and purposes, most people believe was Cedar Fair. That after Dick Kinzel stepped down, a lot of people really think that Cedar Fair had Joe Manby tapped to take over that company. He declined that, though, and chose to stay with Herschend, which was a very interesting move at the time. Now, fast forward a few years, and all of a sudden he's taking over at SeaWorld, one of the most embattled and embittered companies because of the Blackfish scandal. But yet he's stepping into this very tumultuous time, this very time filled with turmoil in this company. And if he can lead them out of the woods, he's going to be looked at as one of the greatest CEOs ever in all of theme parks. And that is the end of that round. Did we beat the beast on that one, or did we tie the beast? I don't know. It was so close. Anywho, moving on to our next topic, though. So let us start the timer once again. And this topic is another interesting thing that happened this week. It is the CEO of a different company, also in Orlando, Iger from Disney, said, or let it slip in a conference call, that Hollywood Studios is probably getting a new name again. Now, as you recall, Hollywood Studios at Walt Disney World, when it first opened, it was called MGM Studios. Fast forward a few years, they took away the MGM branding, put it in a more generic Hollywood Studios. Ever since then, Dwayne, and I don't know if you hear this a lot, but every time I talk to somebody who doesn't really follow the industry very well, just your regular average park goer, that in Orlando you have a lot of them, whenever you say Universal Studios or Hollywood Studios, they basically get the two mixed up. They really don't have.
They think they're the same.
They think they're the same place, and they don't know that it's two separate parks. So obviously, once they get there, they realize. But when you speak of the other park, usually Universal, they kind of think it's the one on Disney's property. So they're very confused sometimes when I say how great Universal Studios was, and they're like, "What? No, they had Toy Story and Star Wars, and that was about it." Because for all intents and purposes, Hollywood Studios is the least attended of all four Disney properties on Walt Disney World. So now we know it's getting a new name, and the big question is, why is it getting a new name? Do you have any possible ideas there?
I read the story, and I'm like, why change it so many times? Because eventually people are going to be like, well, I get used to one, and then I'm going to have to change it and get used to it again. So, and my thought was the same thought you had. They're changing it because people are so confused about what's what. Because, Universal Studios, Harry Potter, bringing in all these new things, the Halloween events. And then you don't hear anything about Hollywood Studios. And first off, the word Hollywood to me makes absolutely no sense for being in Florida. That's across the country in California. Now, granted, there's a Hollywood, Florida, but not when people think Hollywood, they think California.
Yeah.
And studios, there's no studios to be had in Hollywood Studios. So the name never made sense to me anyway. And the whole idea of having different names on the property when it's all part of the same overall general themed idea, okay, but it's just getting confusing to many people who are outside the industry, and you want to make a trip or plan a vacation, and you go and you're like, well, what's this park? What does it have? And is that the same park as this? So, you may think you're going to Hollywood Studios. You're wanting to go to visit Harry Potter, and you're going to get the wrong place. And so you don't really know what's going on, and I think maybe that's the issue. Is there another reason why they're changing it? There probably is, but I have no idea what it is, and I'm sure we'll find out here within the next few months.
Well, they've always speculated that Hollywood Studios could be getting a new Cars Land to replicate what's out in California. The biggest assumption is that Hollywood Studios would be getting the new Star Wars attractions, whatever they decide to do with that. And maybe this new name would encompass all of that stuff more than just Hollywood Studios, because like you said, it doesn't make any sense. Not in California, not a studio, doesn't make sense. Make a new name to fit what this park is going to be. Give it a brand, give it an identity that's not confused with anywhere else in Orlando, and I think you might have a winner on your hands here. That time we do indeed beat the beast, thankfully. So we have finally bested the beast here. I hate the beast. I do. I hate losing to the beast for sure.
I know you do.
So let's move into our next topic. I'll introduce and I'll let you start talking about it. But our next topic is also a Disney story. So let's start that clock. And this story has to do with the MagicBands. A great article this week came out from the Wired magazine about what the MagicBand and what Disney executives think about it. So, Dwayne, why don't you give us a little synopsis of what that article talked about?
Yeah, what a wonderful article. And people who may not know a lot about the MagicBand, go and read this article. You'll get everything you need to know. But in essence, it's a radio chip that's inside of a bracelet that pretty much does everything for you inside of a Disney park. And so it can connect to your credit card. It can, as you're going to find out with this story, it can order your food for you. You can order it beforehand. And that's what I want to talk about the most. I was reading this article, and there's a restaurant. And it's like a tracking system. It pretty much knows when you're on your way to the restaurant inside of the park. And so the waiter, when you go through the door, the host is going to come up to you and say, "Welcome in, Adam's family." And they're like, "How'd you know our names?" But then, they forget that your MagicBand is connected to, your all the stuff that you've done. And so not only that, they said you can sit wherever you want. But then they're like, "Well, how do you know where we're sitting to bring us our food?" And then they're all of a sudden, "Well, that's all taken care of." And then the next thing, you sit down and you're in your seats for 2 or 3 minutes, and your food arrives at your table without ordering. Exactly what you ordered, and that's because you plan all this stuff ahead of time. You tell them, that this is what we want at this restaurant whenever we come in, and so they know by tracking your movements through the park that that you look like you're headed towards the restaurant, and as they come right in the door, that they get their food started immediately, so it's almost ready to go right when you sit down. To me, technology like that is just something that is unbelievable, and only a place like Disney could probably do something like that. The amount of money and the amount of research and things that go into that is just far superior to what a lot of people would take the risks to do. But when you think about it, technology is going to fail. That system is going to fail sometime. Can Disney overcome that? Are there going to be security risks? Absolutely. That has to be something that they would really have to deal with. So this was a multi-million-dollar task ahead of them that they've completed, that they've got working. And as far as I know, Andy, people who've gone down there love the experience. You've been there. You've had them. What's your experience with it?
Well, because keep in mind that, I think when this system first came out, people were like, oh, it's a ride reservation system. I can put my room key on it. But that's really just the basic levels of what this system is doing. This is a complicated mathematical algorithm that is basically planning not only your day, but the day of thousands and thousands of guests, and trying to manipulate the crowds so that everyone has the best time possible. It's just an unprecedented amount of planning that goes into this. And how it can affect a person's day in the park. When I used it as a credit card. I used it as a room key. I thought it was great. I just like having those things on my wrist and having it be able to help me out. I didn't even partake in the ride reservation system at that time. But just the level of depth here, I think, really is going to make this system something special, if it works, and if people stay within the system, because the one thing on vacation, especially with families, is sometimes the unpredictable happens. And I'm wondering how this computer system is going to deal with the unpredictable. It seems to deal very well with the predictable, but what happens when you have the unpredictable, and how will it adapt? How will it evolve? So once again, we beat the beast. Well done, Dwayne. I like it.
So much better than last week. We were what, 1 of 4. Now, this time we're 2 of 3 so far. So now it's going to be up to you.
Now it's going to be up to me, because we're introducing a new segment. So Dwayne, why don't you tell us about this new segment?
All right. Well, cannot wait to do this one. This is usually a fan favorite for a lot of shows. And so today we are going to introduce the COASTER-net Mailbag.
We read all your mail.
And Andy, on the COASTER-net Mailbag segment, what I'm going to do is I have the trusty COASTER-net Mailbag right here in front of me, and I've got questions that are included in this bag. They've come from people on our own forums. They've come from people at COASTER-net.com. They've come from a number of places, and I'm going to pick one out. We're going to start the clock here in just a minute, and we're going to try and get through as many of these questions as we possibly can. And it's going to be your job, Andy, to answer them and explain your answer to the best of your ability to the questions that have been given to us. And all of these questions out there in Coach Ryan deal with this week's news. And so each time we do this segment, usually be about once a month, maybe something like that. It'll be only for that week's news, so that we keep it fresh and we keep it on topic. All right, Andy, you ready to give this a try?
Okay, so let's start the clock. We have started, so send me the first question.
All right, first question. Disney's Hollywood Studios is getting its name changed again. Does it really need a new name that is better than the current one?
Yes.
Pretty quick answer.
I gotta beat the beast, man.
Number 2, do you think that Volcano Bay is the right move for USO, or should they invest into a Jurassic Park area instead?
I love Jurassic Park, and my answer to this would be to do both. That's the answer, is to do both. But speaking specifically of Volcano Bay, that this week we found out that they are building a new water park with this theme. I think it's an awesome idea that, Disney has Typhoon Lagoon and they have Blizzard Beach that are pretty well attended. Universal really doesn't have that signature water park. They own Wet n Wild, but it's across the street, a little bit out of the way. If you're trying to create this resort-like atmosphere and have people be able to use the transportation and get around, that you want that water park to be right on property, to be as close as it can be. And I think that this is the perfect move for Universal, considering how good they do with theming of not only their rides, just the theming in Universal is amazing on things like Transformers and Cat in the Hat and just Harry Potter in general. If you can have half that effort put into Volcano Bay, that's going to be a really spectacular water park that I'm really looking forward to see what it's all about.
All right, excellent. Let's go into question number 3. And question, do you think all of these long-term reservation systems connected to the MagicBand ruin the spontaneity of vacations for families?
That's been the main criticism of this system from the very start, is that, a day at the park should be spontaneous, should be this. But here's my point of view from it. That yes, from my personal point of view, I want to be able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. That I want to go to like a place like Cedar Point and experience the rides. If I want to go ride Maverick right now, I want to go ride Maverick. If I want to go eat a funnel cake, I want to go eat a funnel cake. But see, when families go down to Disney and they pony up a huge sum of money, usually they want to do everything. And if this system can allow them to do more than what they could have done in a spontaneous way, then I think it's a perfect system for Disney, because it's going to keep their guests happy. For me at Cedar Point, I don't know if I'm a big fan of it. For a group going to Disney World, I think it's a perfect concept.
All right. Question number 4. We heard the news here recently, this week, that at Six Flags Over Georgia, Batman is going to start the season going backwards. Do we need to make a long special trip to a park just because it may stop running a ride in a specific direction?
That's an excellent question. I experienced Batman backwards at Six Flags Great America, the first park that the backwards craze really hit. And I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a great ride, changed the ride experience completely. However, I have not heard the same from other people around the country. People down in Texas really don't like it all that much. People out in California didn't have great things to say about it for the most part. So I think if you want to ride Batman backwards, you better do it sooner than later, because I don't know how long this gimmick's going to last for. Is Georgia the last place? I don't know. Six Flags invested in this new ride vehicle. Is it going to go somewhere else? I don't know, but you better try. Oh, man, and that is it. That is it for the Beast. So I fell to the Beast that time. That last question, I was only a few seconds away, Dwayne.
I got you.
Oh, man.
I want to thank everyone for sending in those questions to us. And if you want to hear your question on the next segment of the COASTER.net Mailbag, make sure you head over to the forums, go to the Beat the Beast discussion page, and submit your questions, because your question could end up on the show for either Andy or myself to answer. And you never know. We could really have some good questions, and I thought this week's questions were great. So please, please, please spread the word and continue to get those questions in on the week that we are going to do that specific segment.
And for sure that you can find a link to that exact forum down underneath the news stories. I've posted a link to our thread where you can post questions. Specifically, thank you to Steel Rock, to Water Parker, and to Mr. Chester for sending out those great questions to us this evening. Fantastic job. Thank you, and keep them coming. As always, Dwayne, I think that wraps it up for us tonight. We broke even with the Beast. Maybe next week we can come out ahead. Last week we were a little bit behind. You never quite know. But as always, I'm Andy Barczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm Dwayne Sponseller from Parkersburg, West Virginia, and I will have a report next week from Fury 325. May the Q lines be ever in your favor.
Right on, Ride Warriors.